It's universally acknowledged that Disney is well on its way to world domination, but it started by dominating my childhood, or rather, animation. It did this by moving away from all the cool stuff animation can do that live action can't, and making their animations as live action-like as possible, what we call hyperrealism. Walt Disney was constantly trying to make his animation seem more realistic, more lifelike. This is largely achieved through the 12 key principles of animation, created by Ollie Johnston and Frank Thomas. The first of these is squash and stretch. While perhaps seeming like the most simple of the principles, it may also be one of the most impactful and animation-altering, as we'll see when we look at The Lion King. But before we do that, let's back up. Prior to squash and stretch, Disney used techniques like rubber hosing, as we see in this scene from Steamboat Willie. Unlike rubber hosing, squash and stretch gives characters a set mass, and therefore the illusion of weight and volume. It's kind of self-explanatory. Things squash, and they stretch, like a rubber ball. Or in this case, Zazu. Now, The Lion King is Disney's highest-grossing cel-animated film, and in it we see squash and stretch everywhere, in something as small and as simple as Timon's bug. At times, it is most noticeable in the large and rotund, funny and lovable Pumbaa, because he's, well, large and rotund. Look at this first scene of Pumbaa. Notice how his body moves, squashing and stretching, but his mass and volume remain the same. Or in this scene where he's being hauled upwards, look at the movements of his body. As he moves up, he stretches, but because of gravity, his weight still comes back down and he squashes. But squash and stretch really applies to all characters in The Lion King, like when the trio all bounce together to the beat at the end of this iconic song. Or Simba and Nala when they reunite and roll around in the grass together. Or Timon as he solos and hits that high note. Or even something as simple as Mufasa talking.
If you ever come near my son again.
Look at his jaw. It's squashing and stretching with each movement. That's the thing about squash and stretch. Once you start noticing it, you just can't stop. And while it may seem like something small, it adds to the realism of all of Disney's characters because of their weight and volume. They look real, so we believe them to be.